Before E3 comes around, I want to put out my thoughts and hopes for this game, now they are finally involving my home in the games and I get to see it. I have some game desires and some aesthetic desires, which are what I want to see for a region based on the United Kingdom, as I am a Brit who grew up with this series. Some will be based on mechanics or traits from other games I want them to keep, change or remove entirely. And then there are just some general wants. So let's start with what I want for the actual game. Focus on the new generation of Pokémon. Gen 7 was disappointing. It was nice to see some old Pokémon get love, but let's just go through the numbers of unique Pokémon in each generation. Gen 1 had 151, Gen 2 had 100, Gen 3 had 135, Gen 4 had 107, Gen 5 had 156, Gen 6 had 72, Gen 7 had 88. For Gen 6, that is without the Mega Pokémon, which there are 48 Mega Pokémon, so if you include those, it would be 120 Pokémon. For Gen 7, it didn't include the Alolan Pokémon, which there were 18 of them. So if they were included, it would be 106. So the two most recent generations have had less than 100 unique Pokémon, which is because they kept including Pokémon from other regions in their decks. I don't mind this in small amounts, but I would like at least 100 unique Pokémon in this region. Considering a Pokémon can be literally anything they want it to be, then the possibilities are endless, so there isn't much excuse for them not to give this game a mostly unique feel. The region and Pokémon for that region contribute as much as the game mechanic changes, since they are the gameplay. So if you want us to have a grand experience to set apart from all your other games, then give us something unique in all of those aspects. I do like the idea of beloved Pokémon returning, such as when I saw Flygon in the trailer, and it is one of my favourite Pokémon of all time. But I would also like to get a unique flair in this game for other Pokémon as well, since they have now made it a trend to give old Pokémon something new. And with Flygon specifically, it was meant to get a Mega in Gen 6, but the artists could not design anything they liked, so they scrapped it. Please don't do that again. Flygon hopefully will get a Mega as some sort of flair, as will some other older Pokémon. But do not make that a priority, and please focus on the new generation exclusive Pokémon. And to follow that up, don't restrict Pokémon from previous generations like the Gen 7 games did. In those games, only a Pokémon with Alolan variants or just involved for some reason in that regional dex that are from other generations could be found. Any others you wanted that weren't event Pokémon or legendaries had to be traded up from past games and bred, or potentially got through RNG in the Ultra wormholes, if you had Ultra Sun like I did, or Ultra Moon. This was something infuriating to me. I remember good times where you beat the champion and could access areas where you could get other generation Pokémon and more challenges ahead, which increased the game time and gave everyone a fair chance to get them. In the Gen 7 games, if you want other Pokémon and don't have the games to trade them up from, then you better get ready for either chance encounters in Ultra Wormholes or using the online trading system, and be prepared to give up a legendary for a terribly bred, low-level Stage 1 Pokémon. Yes, I'm being serious. Give us a post-game location, or like visiting other regions, or a safari, or something else where we can get these other Pokémon. This is especially important now that the games are switched onto a new console that is very different from the last. Also, you now have to somehow provide a trade method between the 3DS and the Switch, because I want my shiny Shaman, shiny Rayquaza, shiny Giratina, and shiny Flygon back, which I caught in the games they appeared in and traded up. Shiny Shaman especially, which I got through the event in Platinum, and that Pokemon hasn't had an event since. Give me it back.
Не очень.
А что за направление?
А?
Что за направление?
Направление? Какое направление?
Что за направление музыки играет-то?
Make catching how it was in previous games. I did not enjoy Let's Go because it removed battling with normal Pokemon and kept it to legendaries only, and the leveling system was tied into catching Pokemon. When Pokemon appear on the map, you can completely avoid them, so you shouldn't have it so when a person approaches a Pokemon that they are immediately in a motion-based capture. The motion capture using the Joy-Cons is horrible, by the way. Never do that again, and make it so capture was like it was in Gen 7 and all the gens before it. I'd rather play the game with a controller than have a unique gameplay experience. With Joy-Cons, the capture was a prick, and when the Pokemon weren't straight ahead of you, you couldn't really aim at them. With the portable mode, it was easier. I shouldn't have to sacrifice my comfort experience with the game just to play it comfortably. I enjoy playing games on the big screen, Game Freak. No one asked for you to try to screw around with 2 new methods of catching when it doesn't feel fun to do either. It is mind-numbingly dull. I actually fell asleep twice while trying to max out my Pokemon team in Let's Go Eevee, and it took more set play durations to do it, because it was so boring and took so long. While we are still on the topic of Pokemon, in the games I would like them to keep something I think worked very effectively. I love the ability to ride our own Pokemon. I have them constantly follow us, which was present in Let's Go. And I'd like that to be ingrained in the series from now on. I also love the portable PC being accessible at all times for the player without having to run to a PC in-game like every installment before Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But please bring back breeding and make the removal of that mechanic only a one-time thing for Let's Go. I would also like to see some unused type combinations to finally end up used in the games. There are 25 of them, which are Normal and Steel, Normal and Rock, Normal and Ice, Normal and Poison, Normal and Ghost, Normal and Bug, Poison and Fairy, Dark and Electric, Bug and Dragon, Poison and Ice, Poison and Psychic, Steel and Poison, Fire and Fairy, Rock and Ghost, Ice and Bug, Bug and Dark, Dark and Fairy, Ground and Fairy, Fighting and Fairy, Grass and Fire, Fighting and Ground, Psychic and Bug, Poisoned and Electric, Electric and Fighting, as well as Fire and Ice. The most balanced typing combinations out of these are Dark and Electric, Bug and Dragon, Poison and Fairy, and Poison and Psychic. I feel at least 2 of these should be used. Now back to more meaty topics. I remember how much I loved Black and White for giving an actual story to the game. The side games have always done better than this in the main series, which is why I prefer Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky more than any main Pokemon installment. All the side games tend to be more memorable too, despite they are not as well known. Which is a bad sign, Game Freak. I want the main series to have its own proper story, and better lore to the region than just making a bad team do bad things that we have to stop. It's a reused progression in all the main series games, and it works, but we have no personal reason to care other than it's a bad thing, and bad things shouldn't happen. The real world isn't that nice and we all get screwed over all the time, and people watch it happen and do nothing to help you. Concepts like world peace are nice, but people don't put their efforts towards it because it's a waste of time unless everyone in the world is on board with it. Give us, the player, a reason to care and something we can actually think about. What I think this also links to is the player's rival. I miss mine being a prick. That never grated me when I was a kid, so I don't see why there is a need to be hypersensitive over the kids playing, especially not when you can make abstract versions of graphic landmarks, which I will get to later in this video. The point is that the rival being a prick wasn't a bad thing, and if anything pushed the player to progress forward. As a kid, I remember wanting to beat both Blue and Silver, and to me, they are better developed than the horrid nice rivals we got in Wally and How. People aren't always nice, that is a real life lesson. And the rivals in Pokémon were never bad enough that a parent thought they were horrible encouragements that they complained about the game's age rating or stopped their children from playing. So I don't see what the issue is. I know that Nintendo Game Freak made the point about the rival and the time of the nasty rival is over, but I don't get why. Now here is something that needs to be said. No more hand-holding. Please. It should be stopped, or be optional in gameplay. If I understood how this game played when I was a kid on a Game Boy Color, when gaming as a whole was less provident industry, so there was less exposure to it, then I'm sure a kid can figure it out now. Gaming is everywhere, and something most children see, whether it be from older family members who grew up gaming, or just have an interest in it, their friends, and people they look up to like media stars. I got my little brother interested in gaming without aiming to because he saw me playing Kingdom Hearts when he came in my room to tell me my mother wanted something, and he asked after seeing me fight a boss in the game if he could sit and watch me when I got back, which I said he could if he was quiet. And now his friends talk to him about Fortnite, which I hate to think there could have been potential in games for him, and he picked one of the worst to get into on his own, because of how widespread it's become. But that isn't the point I was making anyway. I got into gaming because of two of my older cousins. My eldest used to show me Pokémon on his Game Boy Color, which is now my Game Boy Color. He gave it to me after he saw how much I liked it. He and my youngest cousin, who is also older than I am, used to play Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda, and they used to let me watch or play when I asked, which is how I got into all of those games. I was exposed to the Kingdom Hearts 1 manga through my younger cousin when we let each other borrow something of the other person's. She lost her copy of Final Fantasy X, so I let her borrow my Platinum PlayStation 2 copy of the game if I could borrow the manga. In the end, when I mentioned I was done and she finished the game, she gave me back my game and said I could keep the manga, which I still have to this day, albeit very damaged because it was damaged when I borrowed it. Neither of them showed me how to play any of the games that I played while with them though. I learned through playing them myself, and if I could do it, I don't doubt other people can. So why was the trainer school in Ultra Sun a thing? I know it was in Sun Moon and Ultra Moon too. It was horrible. Past the 5-10 minutes of the game, you should know how to capture a Pokémon and have the ability to learn the rest through using the battle system. I should not have to be put through a mandatory training course. At most, give people optional game books to read inside of the game, or a tutorial page in the menu that is optional. To smart kids, they will find it stupid. To someone like me who grew up with the series, it is incredibly grating. I know many people who stopped playing those games at that point because the progression was so slow. That is not a good sign about the game. You only need to play the first 5 to 10 minutes of a main series game to know how all the main series games play. And for people who are now adults like me, then it's almost a mockery we have to be put through it. Game Freak focused more on its child audience despite they know their games have impacted so many people for so many years. Those people who are still around are now adults, and they should remember that and consider it.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
Please make the player character more customizable. I saw player customization is returning, and I'm glad, but please don't make it the terrible grade it was in Let's Go. Based on the image of it, there seems to be unique outfits and clothes again, which makes me happy. But I have to make sure, using X, Y, Sun, Moon, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as templates for how it should be, and improve on it further. Give more options, especially for the male characters, who has far less options compared to the female characters in all of those games. I play the game as my own sex, which I'm a girl, and I was born that way. But I did test the male character in my friend's copy of Ultra Sun after hearing how much the customization was worse for them and did some research on it. Why is that the case? It definitely shouldn't be. Now let's get into something not all of you will understand, which is my aesthetic wants, and what that really even means. It is how I think the regions should be presented. And as a British girl, I think I can speak accurately about my own country. Let's start with the use of slang in dialogue or lines if there is voice acting in the game. Which I think they should try and get British people to voice the game if there ever were to be voice acting. Accents would be great. I would also like to see the word twat used at least once, since it isn't swearing, so no one can use that against me, even if the use of it is similar. Oh, and also write the game in proper English. If the game is written in American English when it takes place in Britain, then I will kind of judge that, because that's ridiculous. I'm not sorry for saying that either. People here do not use terms Americans do, or some of the pronunciations that were changed for no reason. We do not call what you wear on your legs pants. They are trousers. Pants are a term for underwear. They are not chips, they are crisps. Chips are what you call fries for no apparent reason. Fries are called fries because they are fried. So if they aren't fried, why do you call them fries? You don't put gas in a car, it's petrol or diesel. You call rugby football for no reason, and when the game is mostly spent carrying the ball and not kicking it. And you call football soccer. Our term for it makes sense since you kick the ball around. People don't kick a football around in their socks, so why soccer? The people over here do not use those terms or the pronunciations that Americans do normally, unless they are far too into TV. American English only exists because of Noah Webster, who wanted to wrest control of the language from the British ruling class. Webster changed the spelling of words by either moving the position of letters or changing them entirely to what he thought sounded better. Like theatre and centre, he moved the R to the end of the word. Meanwhile, in English, it is between the T and E. Words like honour lost their U. He changed C's to S's a lot. If an area is going to be based on our location, then I want it to show in the game text or lines. Yes, I know this is nitpicking, but I think it is fair to want the dialect to be accurate for the place they are portraying. A topic which neatly follows after it is I want portrayals of aspects of this country which it is known for. I'm not expecting Game Freak to understand or care about our media icons, but they should at least know of our queen, and how our country is associated with tea, crumpets, cold and murky weather, as well as the sort of fauna here that they can base Pokémon around. They should apply the same for Scotland and Wales, so the entire region holds accurate to the entirety of the United Kingdom. Though if they wanted to go in depth in references, I would recommend these media icons: Mr. Bean, Russell Howard, and Jeremy Kyle. I would also involve references to our literature, such as Any by William Shakespeare, Lord of the Flies, which is a novel by William Golding, Frankenstein, which is a novel by Mary Shelley, Pride and Prejudice, which is a novel by Jane Austen, The Hobbit, which is a novel by John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, which is what the Lord of the Ring films were based on, the Harry Potter novels without the Twitter posts on modified details in the novels, nice little nods in the area like people complaining about seagull-based Pokémon in the seaside towns, and if you fight the Queen, she has a team of Corgi-based Pokémon would be great for me and other British people playing it. The reason I bring this up is because there are signs they've actually done their research, so here is where I'm going to say some good things about it all, which are all the references found in the trailers and the hints found in the actual titles and logo text of the game. First off, I'll cover the references in the game logo text and name. The name of the games are actually a reference to the royal coat of arms of the United Kingdom, which is found mostly on flags and £1 coins. It has a lion symbolic of England and a unicorn symbolic of Scotland on it. Now I imagine your question on why wolves are detailed in the Pokemon game logos. The British Isles does not have much distinct fauna anymore, but a main predator the country did have was wolves, which were native here, but they were exterminated through a combination of both deforestation and active hunting through bounty systems. Early writing from Roman and Saxon chronicles hint that wolves were very numerous here, and they were estimated to be exterminated within the late 18th century or the 19th century. Currently, there are debates on efforts to reintroduce the species to the UK, but if the legendary Pokemon of these two games are wolves, then there are 3 British story of wolves that would work if these legendaries are fine being from different stories. In the Welsh tale of Galar, Linwyl the Great, Prince of Gwynedd, killed his faithful dog after finding him covered in blood, which he presumed to belong to his baby son. Only later does he discover that his son is still alive and the blood belonged to a wolf that Galar killed in defence of the young prince. In Welsh mythology, both Saint Siwa the wolf girl and Bear, who is an ancestor of Imogen Gulligan, are said to be suckled by wolves, and Scottish folklore tells of how McQueen of Finehord killed the last wolf in 1743. If, however, they are paired in mythology, then the only wolves I can think of are in Norse mythology, which are Skoll and Hati, who are both children of Fenrir, which are parts of the events of Ragnarok. The origin can be associated with Britain since the Vikings did come here. Then within the trailers of the game itself we got in February, the landscapes match up to areas I know of in reality. And there are some landmarks recreated for the games, such as the Cern Abbas Giant in Dorset, which is the explicit landmark I mentioned, Loch Ness in Scotland. Game Freak has gone to a lot of effort to create a representation in the UK with the Galar region, and the game looks stunning so far, but I hope these aspects that I mentioned can be integrated and we get some nice information in E3.
That's why my final rating for this is a broken marriage out of 10.